Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really diving into a fascinating personal story. It's about the twists and turns of academic life, ambition, and, well, finding some kind of balance in it all. We're looking at the journey of a Ph.D. student starting in Hong Kong for high school, then university mainland China, grad school over in the U.S., and now she's doing her Ph.D. back in Beijing. Quite the path. And our source here is this really open, quite intimate interview with her. She shared a lot of the pressures, the choices, the really surprising moments along the way. So the big question we're trying to unpack is, what does chasing excellence really look like today in academia? And how does, personal life weave into that? There's this one thing she said that just sticks with you. I've been studying hard since high school, and I hope one day I don't have to work so hard anymore. That kind of sums up a lot, doesn't it? Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Her first really big decision, moving from the mainland to Hong Kong for high school. Sounds like a strategic move.
Oh, absolutely strategic. Her high school experience was, well, pretty unique. She went to a school specifically for Hong Kong students aiming for mainland universities.
Okay.
And because she already had that mainland schooling background, it actually gave her a leg up. The competition wasn't quite as fierce as the standard mainland Gaokao.
Ah, right. The Gaokao is legendary for being tough. So this was a bit of a different track.
A significantly different track. Yeah, less intense, you could say.
And it worked out well initially.
Extremely well. She graduated top of her class, valedictorian, and got into a top 10 university on the mainland, a really strong start.
Definitely impressive. But okay, she gets into this top university, a highly ranked business school.
Yeah.
Did the competitive field change then?
Oh, drastically. That's where she really hit what she called the very competitive Hanjum culture. And she described her mainland classmates as just very excellent.
Juan, that intense pressure to constantly compete and outperform.
Exactly. And she found herself really struggling with some subjects, especially the math-heavy ones in business school, probability, econometrics, advanced math. It was a big shock compared to high school.
Wow, okay. That sounds incredibly challenging, especially coming in with that Hong Kong background, perhaps being a bit different. How did she cope with that? Did she find a way to, keep up?
She did, and it shows real determination. She used her scholarship money, the one for students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan for 3 years straight,
Okay.
to pay senior students to tutor her privately, basically funding her own support system to get through those tough courses.
That's incredible resourcefulness, using her scholarship not just for living expenses, but for actual academic survival.
It really is. Shows how committed she was to making it work.
And despite all that difficulty, she still managed to graduate well.
She did. She graduated as an excellent graduate from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. So despite the struggles, she clearly persevered and succeeded, a testament to her resilience, really.
So after navigating all that, she decides to go for a master's degree in the U.S. But the reason behind that initial decision was quite personal, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a key turning point. It was initially driven by a relationship, her first love, actually. That's what pointed her towards the U.S.
Okay, so she heads off to the U.S. for this master's, ends up in an expensive city on the East Coast. But she wasn't arriving in the best headspace, it sounds like.
No, not at all. She mentioned feeling very frustrated, somewhat lost. There was a breakup right before she was supposed to leave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she even thought about maybe not going at all. So a really tough emotional starting point for a big move like that.
Definitely. And what was the environment like when she got there? Did it help or add more pressure?
It seems like it added more pressure, honestly. She described it as fast-paced, obviously expensive, a big emphasis on networking.
Right.
And she found her peers very pushy. This environment, combined with her own feelings, sort of pushed her to go to extremes. Well, she felt this intense need to make the whole experience be worth it, given the costs, the emotional state she arrived in. It led to her feeling incredibly tired, comparing the stress to that toughness she remembered from Hong Kong.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Just constantly pushing, maybe feeling like you have to prove something, even just to yourself. Did she feel, looking back, that maybe that pushiness, while stressful, helped her build more resilience? Or was it just draining?
Her main takeaway seemed to be the exhaustion, the sheer tiredness of it all. But interestingly, amidst all that personal difficulty and the demanding environment,
Yeah.
there was an unexpected positive turn. She met her current boyfriend while she was there in the U.S.
Ah, okay. So a relationship influenced her going, and then a new one began there. Life takes funny turns.
It certainly does.
Which brings us to where she is now. First-year Ph.D. student back in Beijing, studying news and communication at a top university.
Mm.
What are the pressures like for her now? Is it different from the master's?
Very different pressures, yes. Her U.S. master's was, as she put it, more employment-focused, less academic training, maybe?
Okay, more practical skills, perhaps.
Right, which means now, in this very academic Ph.D. environment, she feels there's a bit of a gap between her and her peers, who she again describes as excellent, maybe coming from more research-heavy master's programs.
So she feels like she's playing catch-up a bit.
Seems like it. And the PhD structure itself is notoriously demanding. First year is coursework, then a big hurdle, the PhD qualification exam, the bazooka in the second year.
Right.
And then you get into the whole dissertation marathon, the proposal, the midterm review, the defense, external reviews. It's a long haul.
And on top of all that, there's the publishing requirement, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's not just about the dissertation.
Exactly. That's a huge pressure point. You have to publish articles in academic journals. It's usually a mandatory condition for actually getting the degree.
So more hurdles, more pressure. And how does she feel about it all now? Does that sentiment from the beginning still hold?
It absolutely does. That feeling, I've been studying hard since high school, and I hope one day I don't have to work so hard anymore. It seems to be the thread running through everything. It really makes you think about sustainable ambition. You know? How much is too much?
It really does. And does she have any second thoughts about this specific PhD path? Any regrets?
She does express some, yeah. She mentioned wishing she'd maybe considered Hong Kong for her PhD instead of Beijing.
Oh, interesting. Why Hong Kong?
Well, several reasons. Potentially higher stipends, which always helps. Being closer to her family for better social support.
Makes sense.
And also, maybe a more international environment, taught in English, which could be relevant since her boyfriend might pursue a career in the U.S. eventually.
That's a practical consideration.
And it's worth noting she apparently only applied to this one PhD program in Beijing, so perhaps didn't explore all the options as fully as she might have wished in hindsight.
That context adds another layer.
Yeah.
And thinking back on her whole academic path, there seems to be a conscious effort sometimes to manage the difficulty level.
Right. Definitely. You see that clearly in her shift from business, which she struggled with because of the heavy math,
Right.
to news and communication for her PhD, which is generally less mathematically intensive. It looks like a deliberate move to steer clear of those earlier struggles, even while aiming for the highest academic level.
It's fascinating how these threads weave together. The academic choices, the strategic moves like Hong Kong, the relationship driving her to the U.S., meeting her partner there. It really underscores how deeply personal life shapes these seemingly academic or career paths. It's not just about grades and institutions.
Absolutely. Her story is such a clear illustration of that tension between, the drive for academic excellence, navigating that intense competitive culture, the Huan, and this recurring deep-seated desire for, well, maybe a less demanding existence.
Yeah, a bit more breathing room.
Exactly. It shows the human side, the costs, and maybe unexpected benefits of these really ambitious journeys that we often only see the surface of. It makes you think about the systemic pressures, too, not just individual choices.
So wrapping this up, what really stands out to you from this whole deep dive? For me, it's that reminder that the why and the how of our journeys, the personal stuff, the detours, trying to find balance are just as important, maybe more so, than the degrees or the job titles.
I completely agree. And connecting it outwards, her story kind of puts a big question on the table for all of us, doesn't it? In a world that seems to constantly reward more competition, more striving, how do we figure out what's enough? How do we find our own personal version of not having to work so hard anymore while still doing things that matter to us? It pushes us to look past just the external scorecard.
That's a powerful thought to end on. We really hope this exploration encourages you, our listeners, to think about your own paths, not just where you're headed, but the landscape you're moving through to get there, and what truly makes that journey feel right for you.